Hello and welcome. My name is Vince, and in this video I will take you through the steps of how I recolor manga images. There are probably more advanced tutorials out there. This is aimed towards people who have little to no skills with graphical software, so I'm going to use a pretty basic method, but even if it's a basic method, it's worked for me for years. I love coloring with Photoshop this way. I think it's an excellent program, but you don't really need Photoshop. You can use things like GIMP and a few others out there. A free 30-day trial of Photoshop is available on the Adobe website. I recommend using Photoshop because I think it's awesome, but you can use other free programs as well. Now, the basic steps. When you import your image into Photoshop, you can see it creates a layer. That layer is our main layer. We will not be using that, but what we will do is copy it. The standard hotkey for copying a layer in Photoshop is Ctrl-J. With our copied layer, you want to set the display mode to multiply. I'll tell you why in just a minute. Now, you create a new layer. You can do that by clicking the new layer icon. In that layer, we will do our coloring. I took an image of Sojiro here. So what I did was I took another image that is colored. We're not really going to work with that image. All we're going to do is pick colors out of that colored image so that we can color our lovely manga Sojiro here. The first thing we're going to color is Sojiro's hair. Now, his hair is black. It has this bluish or purple shine to it. You see the highlights noted in his hair, the parts in white here. We're going to color that with our bluish purple color we took from our reference image. While I did this, I noticed that my multiply layer wasn't actually really doing what it's supposed to do. The display mode multiply, what it actually does is it allows you to color in white surfaces but have the blacks remain black. So even if you would take your brush and color over the black, it would still be black and not the color you were coloring in. This is very useful because otherwise, you know, it's like a coloring book. You want to color in between the lines. You don't want to go outside of the lines because that looks messy and ugly and very unprofessional. So the display mode multiply allows us to disregard the lines so we can just color underneath them. Because we set the top layer, our original copy, because we set that on top of our color layers, it will always remain on top. So as long as it stays up there, your colors won't appear to be above the blacks. Now, I notice here that my one multiply layer wasn't enough because I started out with an image that was, well, not really that great of a quality, but the blacks were not really black. It was like a very light black or dark gray. It's hard to explain. It's just sometimes you have an image where the black is not dark enough and your own colors will shine through anyway. In that case, what you do is you just simply copy your multiply layer and you also set that layer to multiply. That way you have two multiply layers, making your original image a lot darker. So I copied it once, set it to multiply, and that was plenty. And then I started to color in the highlights. I'm gonna do a quick time lapse here and then move on to the next part. In my reference image, I took the lightest color. I always tend to do that. I take the lightest color and color with that. Any highlights I do, which we will arrive to later in the video, any highlights will come afterwards. Because the lightest color is mostly the main color. So you're better off starting coloring entire surfaces with the lightest color, and then afterwards you can add your darker colors. Sometimes when you have, for example, here we have our skin color. It's a pretty light color, which is very hard for us to see where you've actually colored. What I do, and where the beauty of our layer principle comes in handy, is use a different color. For example, I took red because you can clearly see where I'm coloring with the red color a lot better than with the skin color. So I just colored his entire face red. So I use that color to color in everything that I want to have in that specific color. When you're done, what you do is you click on your layer, you press Control, and you click on that little preview image you have of your layer. That will select all of the contents on that layer. So here that would be all the red in Sojiro's face and hand. When you do that, you can switch over to your skin color, take your brush, color in his face and hand without having to worry of your brush overflowing, without having to worry about the line work and so on. You can just color in that particular element. You did the hardest part, which was coloring it in, defining the borders of your color. Now we can just click it, select all of it, and just color it in. Sometimes what happens is when your selection is just a few pixels too small, it will still have like this little red edge in some areas. In order to fix that, after you've colored it in the first time, or recolored it in with the correct color, you just hit Control and click on that preview image in the layer again. This will expand the selection by just a few pixels, and you can color it in with the skin color. That way you remove any red pixels that are left in the image, and you don't have to worry about that. This is the first time I'm going to use a darker color or a darker shade of the same color to add a little bit of shadow. This image does not have that much shadow or highlights to it, well, the original image anyway, but you see me taking a darker purple here to color the inside of Sojiro's sleeve. This adds just a little bit more depth to your image, making it look way more awesome than it otherwise would. are done and pleased with your colors, what I advise you is you select all of your layers and you group them. That way you can turn them all on and off at once. You don't have to select every single layer. So you see me clicking here and watching the result of my labor with color and without color. Now at this point I was done, but I just wanted to add just a little bit more detail. As I mentioned before, there's really not that many parts where I can add shadows or darker tones. But then I decided, oh, let's just take these lines over here and color them in with a darker color. Now, this was a really basic tutorial on how to color in Manga, basically anything in Photoshop. It's a bit more advanced than what we were used to as kids with our coloring books and so on. You can create some really awesome stuff with this. As long as you have a basic understanding of how colors and shadows and highlights work, then you should be fine in doing something on your own. There are plenty of other manga coloring tutorials out there, both here on YouTube or on the internet. So if you want to delve in this a bit more, I highly advise you to go and do some research. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Now go out there and make something awesome.
また一人ぼっちになっちゃったな。でもなんだかちっとも寂しくないんですよ。変ですよね、獅子王さん。